I am very excited. We actually have some news. We know Stephon Diggs is a Patriot. We know Russ is with the Giants. So is Winston. I don't know if that matters as much. And yeah, we got a lot of things cooking over there on the site, and I am damn excited. So freaking excited to give you all the updates. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's dive into this. We have some site members teams to go ahead and look at. First one's going to be coming from Zach. It's a 16-team league. $3,000 to first place. Well, hopefully we get first, my guy. Second place last year, only allowed 2 quarterbacks per team. Entering into year 2, picks 1 and 2 are very likely Ash and Tet. Should we trade pick 12 for a future first for to a quote-unquote bad team? Hampton or Ward at 3. If Ward starts, we'd have to trade or drop Anthony Richardson. Set me up to win the next 10 years. Really appreciate you, and trust me, I wish that I could go ahead and set all my Dynasty teams up to win the next 10 years. Much, much, much easier said than done. But nonetheless, I will say 100%, we are adjusting the way that we evaluate quarterbacks in a Superflex league where you have roster limitations. Now, I played in a keeper league way back in the day. I mean, I don't even, maybe this is 2015 time period. I joined a league. Actually, I was already in it previous, but they wanted it to be super flex, and they made a rule that you could only keep one quarterback from year to year because some members of the league were worried that quarterback was going to be too valuable and blah, 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 blah. I didn't like the rule then, and I will say I know this isn't the exact same thing, but in general, I really don't like any type of roster limitations where the commissioner is able to say, hey, you're only able to roster 2 quarterbacks, or hey, you can't have more than 6 wide receivers, whatever it may be. And yeah, that artificial cap on quarterback, I don't want to say will make it play more like a 1 quarterback league, because again, you are able to start multiple quarterbacks every week, but there will always be a starting quarterback out there on the waiver wire. I mean, there are 16 teams in this league. It's going to be more difficult in the 16-team format, obviously, just given the supply and demand of the position. I would say typically, if you are playing in a 16-team Superflex league with no roster caps whatsoever, given how out of whack the quarterback supply and demand can get, 100% Cam Ward's the pick at 3. He may even be the pick at 2 in a 16-team Superflex league. That's normal. But for you here, you essentially have to ask yourself, would I rather have Hampton and Richardson, or would I rather have Ward? And with that frame to look at things, I would probably rather take Hampton with all else being equal. Now, of course, maybe Hampton finds himself in a horrible situation. Maybe he falls to the beginning of round 2 and the Cleveland Browns end up taking him. Whereas maybe you end up getting a great landing spot to a top offense from Judkins, and he ends up going round 1. Then, of course, we are going to be willing to go ahead and kind of change the player that we are taking at 3. I don't necessarily think as of March 27th with this draft class in particular, you really need to try to lock in one guy versus the other. But in a league in which you can only roster 2 quarterbacks and you have to drop Richardson, I would say unless the running backs find horrible landing spots, I probably am passing on Cam Ward in favor of an RB. Now, let's go ahead and let's dive into this roster. Right now, quarterback, we are going to be looking at Goff and Richardson. And I do want to point out for everybody here that's watching this, I know that this team kind of looks average, and it's the second team in the league analyzer. It seems far from average given the context of it being a 16-team league. Because to be a quarterback 1 in a 16-team league, you need to be a top 36 quarterback. I'm sorry, top 16 quarterback. To be a quarterback 2, you just have to be a top 32 guy. To be a wide receiver 3, you have to be a top 48 wide receiver. The bar for a contending team is going to be much, much lower in a 16-team format in comparison to a roster that you're looking at in a 10-team league. So here, looking at Jared Goff, I have him ranked as the top 16 QB in Dynasty. I have Anthony Richardson as that top 32 quarterback. I mean, assuming that Anthony Richardson isn't going to get benched for Daniel Jones at some point this next year, I think from a points per game perspective, given the rushing, you could very easily see Anthony Richardson actually being a top 16 quarterback. So I think you possibly have 2 quarterback 1 specifically for this format on your roster this next year through the lens of us trying to maybe go ahead and contend. Now, going ahead and looking at your running back position, Chase Brown, very interesting player, given the fact that if you look at his age, there is a very real possibility that he is the starting running back in Cincinnati in 2026 and 2027 if he ends up just crushing this year the way that he did at the end of last season. But again, it's not inherently a guarantee. We have seen running backs actually come out and give a really strong half-a-year performance. If they don't have the team investment, they don't have the contract, they don't have the draft capital attached to them, then a lot of times that team isn't necessarily all in on the running back, and you know for sure that they're going to be a starter going into the future. So, hell, the Bengals could be a sneaky team to actually take another running back in the draft on day 2, and all of a sudden Chase Brown is in a committee. So, wide range of outcomes, but he looked phenomenal at the end of last year. I have him ranked as a top 10 running back in Dynasty as of today, and I think that we can confidently say in a 16-team format, if we're looking to contend this season, 100% we're happy with him as our RB1. Josh Jacobs, you're looking at a 1 to 2 year rental, but again, this is a contending team, and he should very easily be a top 16 running back this next season. So we have 2 running back ones on this team. Jaylen Warren looks to be great depth as a running back 3 to 16 team format. So this is 100% a contending team. Going over to receiver, we have St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Rome. And again, to be a wide receiver 3 here, you just have to be a top 48 guy. So the very minimum, we have 2 wide receiver 1s. We potentially have 4 guys that can get up to a top 16 finish. Maybe even throw in Ricky Pearsall there as well. So we have plenty of wide receiver depth. This is going to be a start 11 format, and this is going to be super, super important for the context of this. If you are playing in a 10-team start 10 league, there are 100 total starters across the entire league. If you're playing in a start 11 16-team format, let me get out a little calculator here. And I will say, I've played in a ton of deep leagues. I've played in 12-team start 12 formats, but I don't even know if I've ever played in something this deep. There's 176 starters across the league. Having depth at running back, having depth at wide receiver is going to be massive. So I'd love to see that we have 5 startable guys here at wide receiver. Going over to tight end, we have the best tight end in Dynasty by a country mile with Brock Bowers. So really, this is a phenomenal team. You can see right now that we are second in the league analyzer, and the top 2 teams here, we have a massive lead on the rest of the league. If you want to see something fun, we can go ahead and check the worst team in this league. This team here at the bottom, their wide receiver 1, Shakir, their running back 1, Charbonnet. Yeah, a little ugly. Somehow, we also have the rookie picks, which is insane. And now this is going to be the only real area that I think that you could go ahead and you could look to make some plays. Now, I understand that you were previously mentioning trading pick 112 for a future first from a bad team. And yeah, of course. I mean, if you can go ahead and if you can look at some of these teams that are at the very bottom of the totem pole that not only don't really have much production for this next season, but also don't have the young assets to all of a sudden turn themselves into a contending roster, like this sweet side piece, if you can trade them the 112 and get their 2026 first, it may make sense doing so. Going over here, the Beagle doesn't look like they have their own first round pick. Run CMC, you could see this team actually being fine depending on how things break. Just given the fact that they have some wide receiver depth there. This team, Ayuk's their wide receiver 1, Pittman's their wide receiver 2. If you want to trade the 112 and try to go get there first, not going to fault you for it. But my main issue with it is I think you're in such a strong spot to contend that what I would almost rather do with that 112 is I would rather almost shop it to a team that is looking to rebuild, and there should be plenty in a 16-team format, not necessarily for their future pick, but instead for some production right this second. Because again, if we go back and look at some of these rosters that look like they don't really have much business and contending at this point, if you can take that 112 and if you can send it for a package of assets in a start 11 format, say we move back to the 205, which is a pretty significant drop. I mean, keep in mind 16-team format, so we're dropping back like 9-10 picks. The 205 is more like the 209 in a regular 12-teamer. But if we could pick up an additional starter or two in the form of Khalil Shakir, maybe in the form of Charbonnet, Travis Etienne, I think that could be something that's interesting to look at because, again, start 11 format, depth is going to be massive here. I'm going over to the Beagle, this team that looks like they're kind of accumulating rookie picks. I mean, they have 2 future first. Now, of course, that they have CeeDee Lamb. There's nothing we're going to get to move up to Lamb. And honestly, in a start 11 format, I wouldn't even be wanting to pay up for those top-end assets anyway. We're just trying to fill out as many potential starters as we can to get us through the season. But, I mean, potentially going through and seeing if we can send, like, the 112 and getting back Jaden Reed, Brian Robinson, and get back 2 potential starters there. I think that could be interesting. This team looks like they can contend. Going ahead to Reed's Burgers, seeing if we could send the 112 and maybe another pick in the second round to get Brandon Ayuk and Isaiah Pacheco. Like the 112 and the 204, which keep in mind is a little bit more like the 208 and a regular 12-team format. If we can send that to get Ayuk and Pacheco, it would just build you a roster in which it's going to be very difficult for anybody to trump us during the regular season. Like even going ahead and looking at the team that's number 1 in the league analyzer here, and we count out the amount of reliable starters that they have weekly. They have their 2 quarterbacks. They have their 5 running backs. They have 3 receivers they can start weekly and a tight ends. So, I mean, they're sitting here with a total of what? Like 9 reliable starters on a week-to-week basis in a start 11 format. If you can send that 112 and that 204, bring in 2 veterans in a start 11 16-team league. We have our 2 quarterbacks that we can start. We have, say, if we got that Brian Robinson and Ayuk deal, we have Chase Brown, Jacobs, Robinson, Warren. We have 4 RBs. We have about 6 receivers, and we have the tight end. If we can bolster our roster up to 13 starters, when we're going through the bye weeks in general with this league, I frankly don't see how anybody could possibly touch you. When we're in week 6, or a bunch of injuries across the league, and teams are dealing with buys. Like, how are you not just absolutely stomping the rest of your league the next 2 to 3 years, which honestly, nobody's going to be able to tell you how to dominate your dynasty league over the next 10 years. It's very easy to say, oh, okay, well, I know 2 years from now, we need to accumulate value because we're rebuilding roster. Here's how we do that. Or I can see, oh, we're a juggernaut roster. How can we win this year, the next year, and the year after? And I think maybe moving on from some of these later picks. Another possibility that you can have, again, just going back to building around depth being incredibly important. If you could move back from that 103 and send, say, the 103 and get back a mid to late first and at the same time a future 2026 first, I think that could be an interesting way to pick up an additional first. Like, say this sweet side piece, this team here. They're sitting with the 114, and again, we identified this team as one of those very bad teams in your league that you were wanting to acquire their first round pick. If you can send that 103, get the 114, get their future first, and then turn around and maybe sell that 114 for a Brandon Ayuk type guy that's actually going to be able to help you win right now, and you think that 2026 first looks like it has a real shot to be the 101, could be an interesting move and something to consider. Obviously, you're the person giving up the best asset, so I'd for sure make sure we are charging a premium on that end. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking to trade the 112 and just punt a year and go get a future first, unless your plan is you think you're going to be able to sell that first and you're actually going to be able to get more in the season. The issue is going to be, of course, that you're going to have to identify somebody during the year that can look at that future first that you have and agree, oh, okay, yeah, that team's going to finish inside the bottom 3. That team's going to finish inside the bottom 4. That's going to be a top 3 pick in the rookie draft, and I'll pay you appropriately. So I think you're much better off selling that 112, that 204, getting assets that are going to give you a 1 to 2 year window to really try to take this down, get that $3,000 this year, help get that $3,000 next year as well. If this was not a start 11 league, I'd be very interested in trading a rookie pick with like Jared Goff to go upgrade quarterback, or a rookie pick with Anthony Richardson to go upgrade quarterback. The issue is it's a 16-team league where you have to start 11 players. You're going to have to get a ton of running backs and a ton of receivers in your starting lineup regardless. So I almost think that you can not entirely punt the quarterback position, but get away with what we have at quarterback and just build out the best running back, wide receiver depth in this league. And I think that's how you win it. But I really appreciate you. I wish I had more for you, but you just have a phenomenal team here, so it's like kind of difficult for us to say much. But yeah, again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my guy. But let's go over and check this out for Berkey Burke here. It says, looking to compete this year. Tried to compete last year, but was very unlucky and ended up in the toilet bowl. What would you do if you were me? I think Hampton could fall to me at the 104, but I'm thinking of trading up to get Genty. All right, so let's dive into this. This is going to be a start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 league. So start 10 format, so we're not necessarily having to go overkill on the depth here. And I literally have no idea how you ended up in the toilet bowl. Are you in like is this like a 6-team league? Serious question. How could you possibly end up in the toilet bowl? This team has this is insane. This team has Stroud, Bijan, Nico, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, JSN, London May, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, George Pickens, Garrett Wilson. This has to be a 4-team league. If you didn't, either that or you are the worst person that I've ever seen when it comes to start-sit decisions. Like, there's no excuse for this team to ever not have won the league last year. Like, let's just run through this one by one. These are the expert rankings on the site. These aren't my rankings. Stroud, 3rd round startup pick. Bijan, going to be a round 1 startup pick. What? Nico, round 2 startup pick. Neighbors, round 1 startup pick. Brian Thomas, round 1/round 2 startup pick. London, JSN. London, round 2 startup pick. JSN, round 3 startup pick. Drake May, round 2 startup pick. Rice, round 4 startup pick. Worthy, round 6 startup pick. Garrett Wilson even. Round 3. So this is an insane team. What the hell could you possibly do? So with a roster like this, there is no reason for you to ever consider making anything other than 2-for-1 deals, 3-for-1 deals to try to get the best player in return. You have a juggernaut team as is. Yes, I think it very much makes sense for us to try to trade up to get Ashton Genty here. Couple deals that I would just throw out to that 101 owner. Very easily, we can include that 104. If we can try to send them the 104 and George Pickens, the 104 and Xavier Worthy, hell, I would even send them the 104 and Rashee Rice and see if we can move up to Ashton Genty. And that's not necessarily a trade I would do with every single team, but if we make a deal like that, and it doesn't have to be for Genty too. I mean, if you can send Rice in the 104 and go get Gibbs, all of a sudden you're sitting with a starting lineup of Bijan, Genty, or Gibbs, but 2 top 3 running backs in Dynasty. And you have so much depth that we're still sitting with Garrett Wilson on our bench. So I am 100% willing to sign off. Let's go pay up. Let's go get another elite running back. And then the other moves that you could potentially make here is sending some of that wide receiver depth to try to go get an elite tight end or try to go get an elite quarterback. Like sending, say, maybe Garrett Wilson as well as Garrett Wilson and Evan Ingram's not getting you Bowers. Let's see. How can we get to Bowers? It doesn't even have to be Bowers. It goes in Garrett Wilson and Ingram and try to go get Trey McBride. Sell this wide receiver depth, get the elite quarterbacks. Go see if we can send Garrett Wilson and Drake May and get Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar, Hurts. It doesn't matter. Go get one of those top 3 to 4 quarterbacks. Try to do the same thing with CJ Stroud. There's no other move that you could possibly make on this team other than trying to go ahead and send 2-for-1 deals and get upgrades inside the starting lineup. You have a juggernaut squad. The only other note that I would have is obviously we are much stronger at wide receiver than we are at running back. So if your league mates do decide to actually pass on some of those deals for you, I would have a strong preference of us going in the direction of running back over wide receiver, specifically with that 104 pick if we ended up making it. But regardless, I don't think you make the pick. I think you trade it and try to go get an elite asset personally. But I really do appreciate you. And I wish I had some more context to this because I truly have a suspicion that this is a 4-team league. Either that or you are the worst person I've ever seen at submitting your starting lineup, because I don't know how that team didn't win, to be honest. But anyway, let me pull this over. I see Cheeky Opson in the chat, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to pull y'all's chat questions up on the screen. Not at my house, at an Airbnb for the next few months, sadly. But we got the camera set up. Hopefully this camera looks a little bit better than what we were doing previously. And we're getting close to daily streams again. I'm feeling it. And I need to get a second monitor. So I'll get a second monitor. That way these live streams can be a little bit better. I can pull that chat up on the other screen. But we're going really, really small here. But anyway, Cheeky Opson says, hey, Mason, keep Puss Hingsuit the great content. My friend, I don't exactly know what that meant, but I appreciate you. And we are already putting it together. We are going to get a Flock meetup going with everybody in the Flock League in Austin. I guess we can make the announcement. It's official. I bought the Airbnb, got all the flights, or most of the flights. Need to get a few more people's. Flock League Season 2 is back on. I'm assuming everybody knew that. And everybody's coming to Austin August 15th through August 18th, which is Wednesday through Monday. And we are going to do the Flock League meetup on Sunday in Austin, Texas. So I believe August 17th is going to be the Flock League meetup. If anybody here is watching and wants to come, should be a ton of fun. We'll have domain there, land there, FSC there, and yours truly there, of course. And you'll go, oh my God, Mason, I didn't know you were joking when you were 6'10". Now, Bori coming through says, just completed my first Dynasty startup. Looking for any tips I can use to get into Dynasty with my first team so far. Well, I will say, my friend, startup, obviously, all the leagues are going to be about the same in terms of the league analyzer. But nonetheless, you're in a really good spot where you have the most valuable team in this league, according to the league analyzer, which, congrats, especially for your first startup draft ever. This is going to be a Superflex 12-team start 10 PPR half-point tight end premium format. So very standard league. I would say that this is pretty much the regular league you're going to see anybody join, to be honest. Now, quarterback, we have Allen, we have Goff. So, we're in a good spot, right? When you have Josh Allen, you do get a lot of flexibility with what you can do with the rest of the roster, just because you can expect 25 points per game comfortably. So having a quarterback 3 would be nice, but it's not inherently something that we actually need. So if you wanted to go ahead and try to target like Shadur Sanders with the 201, if he falls there, that'd be great. Of course, assuming he gets the NFL draft capital. Going over to running back. Running back typically is going to be a position that we really only care about on contending builds. If you're a rebuilding roster, there are very few running backs that I'd say, okay, yeah, it makes sense. They can increase in value over the next 12 months. I'm fine holding on to them. Really, that list only includes rookies or guys that are out for the year, like Jonathan Brooks, right? There's a small possibility Jonathan Brooks is worth more next offseason than he is now. But nonetheless, here we should care about running back, because looking at our team, especially with the league analyzer, looks like we should plan on being a contender. With Achane very comfortably being drafted as a running back 1 in redraft leagues right now, also only going to year 3, so he's still on that rookie contract. So a running back that we can build around for this season and for years to come. Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, both 1 to 2 year rental running backs, but nonetheless should get RB1 production for Jacobs, are pretty damn close. David Montgomery should give you RB2 production, and then if you were to get an injury from Gibbs, Montgomery immediately turns into a league winner. And then Rachaad White is that handcuff running back that maybe is startable in a deep dynasty league during the bye weeks, but nonetheless, good running back room. Definitely a running back room that we can go ahead and contend with. Looking at the wide receiver position, we have Nico Collins on his second deal, going to year 2 of his second deal. So definitely an asset that I'm more so considering on a contending build to try to get that production right now. On a rebuilding team, I'd probably be willing to go ahead and actually move off of Nico, but frankly, it doesn't matter. I'd say the same thing with A.J. Brown, but 2 wide receivers that very easily could be wide receiver ones in fantasy this next season, attached to 2 running back ones that we have with Achan Jacobs. Strong build to contend. We have okay depth, not great depth, with Pickens wide receiver 3, Pittman wide receiver 4, Romeo Doubs wide receiver 5. And then going over and looking at tight ends, it's whatever. I mean, we have Isaiah Likely, so that tight end could be addressed. Tight end can be a little bit better. But anyway, it's an extremely well-balanced roster. I would say it would be very premature for you to decide to go through and trade any future picks. I could see that this is a team that maybe starts off 4-1, 5-2, and you're a contending roster to the point where you have the confidence at that point to go ahead and trade your 2026 first and maybe go get a top end producing tight end like George Kittle. But you would just be taking on a lot of risk if you were to make that move now, because then if Josh Allen gets injured and all of a sudden you actually can't contend, but you already traded away your 2026 first, you are extremely limited. Like, this is by no means some juggernaut team that is going to contend this next season regardless, right? I mean, you do have some inherent risk here. So I'm holding on to our first during the year. If it looks like we are strong enough to contend, then at that point we could indeed look to sell, but just too early to tell at this moment. That 201, 209, I definitely think that they're in play in a couple of different ways. A running back, wide receiver, 12 team start 10 format, I think we're just fine. But with that 201, I definitely want to take an asset that I think can help us contend this season, especially structurally with our roster. I think that there are going to be a couple different players that you could consider here. Let's just go pull up the rankings on the side again, and we can look at the expert average. We don't even need to necessarily look at mine. We'll go over to the rookies. So these are the average rookie rankings on the site. Looking at like the 201, Tyler Warren may be there. Loveland may be there. Shedeur Sanders may be there. Like, if you look at my specific rankings, I will have Sanders higher than this. I actually have Sanders higher. We can just go ahead and add my rankings right now. I mean, you're a member of the site. You can see all this stuff yourself. And yeah, of course, when you add my rankings, just in case you don't know, but I know you're a member of the site, so you're seeing all this regardless. You can see the tier breaks with this stuff too. But I do have Sanders in the same tier with the tight ends and Matthew Golden. I know a lot of people are putting Matthew Golden wide receiver 1 right about now. Again, I have issues with that for a couple different reasons, which we can talk at a later date. Regardless, with that 201, I think if Sanders is there and assuming he gets top 3 NFL draft capital, 100% he fits your roster. I think Loveland fits the team. I think Tyler Warren fits the team. And I think that those are all picks that have the upside and have the potential to help you win right now, while at the same time giving you a decent amount of future value. The 209, 404 range, the issue with these are going to be, you just got done with the startup draft, right? So when you're right after a startup, it's going to be difficult to find teams that are like, oh, okay, yeah, I just drafted this team, but I don't think I can contend, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start selling off my assets. Like, most people in the startup realized, oh, I'm a contending team, I should draft older players. Or, oh, I'm a rebuilding team, so I should take future assets. Like, for example, this team that has seen, like, David Njoku would be an appealing buy, right? Like, let's say that all of a sudden you realized, oh, I'm a contending team. I ended up getting Shedeur Sanders with the 201, so I didn't solve my tight end position. Let me take the 209 and Isaiah Likely and trade them to a rebuilding roster for David Njoku. Because David Njoku is obviously a contending asset. So maybe if that team needed a rebuild, they'd be willing to make that move. The issue is you go and look, it's, oh no, David Njoku is on the CMC team. Obviously this team's looking to win right now. So going ahead and looking at like veteran tight ends that we can trade a rookie pick for, maybe this team put the thing is with this team here, they don't even have their own 2026 first, right? So we can't try to sell them on, oh, you need a rebuild, give us Evan Ingram for the 209. I mean, we can send that over if we whiff on tight ends in the rookie draft, but it's just going to be a little bit tougher to make trades right when you get done with the startup, because it's not like a dynasty league that's 1 year in, right? Where teams are structurally flawed, where maybe they have some contending assets on a rebuild, maybe they have some rebuilding assets on a contender, or maybe they have a player that they don't like anymore. But I mean, all these guys just drafted these players, so you would think that they would like them. But anyway, I think if you whiff on a tight end at the 201, can't hurt to try to send that 209 and like Isaiah Likely to try to go get a David Njoku level player, or maybe try to send that 209 straight up and instead bring back an option like Evan Ingram, like one of those lower tier tight end depth plays. But overall, phenomenal, especially for your first startup to already be number 1 in the league analyzer. Everybody is pretty even, of course, right after startup, but I think it's a very well-balanced team, of course. I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. Let's move over to our next team. This one's going to be Pinky. So should we make any moves? All right, this is a start 10 team, 2 quarterback, non-tight end premium format. So a little bit more of a shallow league where we are a little incentivized to try to make 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals to get improvements inside the starting lineup based off the league settings. Looking at the squad right now, we do have a lot of value tied up in the quarterback position. I mean, quarterback, wide receiver, definitely the strength of the team. And we have a lot of depth with it as well. So I do think that this is a team where some moves are going to make sense. Now, specifically with a 10-team Superflex league, of course, quarterback is just going to be a little bit easier to come by, given the fact that you are able to, say, on average, see 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks per team. There are 32 starters across the league, 10 teams in the league. So supply and demand is a little bit thrown off. Like, you're never really going to be able to sell a QB3 for a ton. Now, with that being said, we arguably have 3 quarterback ones, depending on how you cut it. And we're in a really comfortable spot, right? We can just kind of sit here at quarterback. We got production for this season, and we have long-term value as well. There's not really much to discuss. Now, going over to running back, we have mixed in for the 1-year rental. And we can say, okay, well, maybe we get 2 years out of them. But regardless, short-term, contending type asset. And our team's definitely a contending roster. We're the second best team with the league analyzer, right? Now, we can definitely add another running back because we have Brian Robinson here who, depending on what Washington does in the draft, may just be an absolute zero. Maybe our only running back is Joe Mixon on this squad. Thank God we have the 103. I'll say in a 10-team Superflex league, I'm not really interested in Cam Ward with the 103. I definitely think that you're either going to be going Ted McMillan, Travis Hunter if he ends up being a receiver, or maybe a running back like Hampton here, just depending on what happens with the NFL draft. But I think running back's definitely going to be in play, but I honestly may not even wait until the NFL draft to do something on that front. Because going over to wide receiver, you are in a spot where we have a ton of depth and we don't necessarily need it. Because again, this is going to be a start 10 league. So say we start Burrow, Herbert, we start Mixon, and whatever running back we take at the 103. But regardless, we have 4 starters across quarterback, running back. We throw in a tight end. We have 5 potential starters at receiver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 potential starters with the wide receiver position on this team as of now. So I definitely think a couple of these wide receivers are going to be expendable for us, and we can look to trade them. Now, of course, trying to look at the prototype of the guys that we are going to be wanting to offload, specifically in a 10-team league like this, where you only start 10 guys, I would be looking to try to offload the receivers that have a cap ceiling. A good example of this is like going back and looking at the 16-team start 11 format that we saw earlier. A wide receiver like Zay Flowers there is massive because you know you're going to be able to start Zay Flowers. You know what Zay Flowers is going to give you, and you can be pretty confident that he's going to be a difference maker. Here in a start 10-team league, while we know that Zay Flowers is a pretty decent floor, Well, we know Devonta Smith has a pretty decent floor. Could you possibly see either player being a top 5 wide receiver? No, they're not going to be a top 5 wide receiver this next season. That's not inherently in the range of outcomes. I mean, Rice, obviously very different. Rice, you have an extremely wide range of outcomes where Rice may be a 0 this next year, whether that's due to injury or suspension, but Rice also could be a top 3 wide receiver in points per game. So in a shallower format like this, where in my mind, what we should be trying to accomplish is we should be swinging for the fences, Rashee Rice is kind of the best depth wide receiver to be building around, whereas somebody like Zay Flowers, especially with the wide receiver depth that we have, maybe not so much. So if we can find a team that needs some help at wide receiver, especially knowing that some of these guys are younger, and we can send a 2-for-1 deal and go get an upgrade at running back, I think that would be very interesting. So looking at this team is Tank Dell as their wide receiver 4, Alec Pierce as their wide receiver 5. So you could very easily see this squad here actually needing some help at receiver. Now, there are a couple different ways you can go about this, right? We can go ahead and we can just see, hey, can I send you Zay Flowers for Kyron Williams? Can I send you Devonta Smith for Kyron Williams and see what they say? Probably say a no to that. Now, on the other hand, what you could look to do instead, especially knowing that this is a 10-team league, so the rookie picks guaranteed to be inside the top 10, plus it's super flex format, so you are going to have some quarterbacks pushing values down across the board. If we could maybe go ahead and send Zay Flowers type receiver that does have very much a cap ceiling, and in this format, maybe not going to be a massive needle mover when it comes to your expected wins. If we can just send him for a 2026 first, I actually like the idea, because what you're able to then do with that 2026 first is during the season, you're able to trade it maybe for a veteran running back that we can see is making a difference at the moment on a team that decides that they have to go ahead and they have to rebuild. Or what we can also do with that 2026 first is we're able to just package it up with Brian Robinson right now and try to go get the 104, try to go get the 105, go try to get a rookie pick in this year's draft that you think could make a difference for you right this second. So that's the big thing that I would be looking to do, is trying to sell a couple of those wide receiver depth pieces, and really not too many of them, maybe just 1 or 2, selling either the Smith or Flowers. Maybe if you can get a great price for Ricky Pearsall, that can be something that you can consider as well. Going with the 103, I'm not considering Cam Ward specifically for your team in your format. I would definitely consider a running back here, of course. I mean, if Hampton falls, that's perfect. But you can look at a couple different players, to be honest, depending on landing spot. I really do appreciate you, though, and I really hope I was able to help you out with something. But again, you have the second best team in this league, according to the league analyzer. So, really, most teams we've looked at today have been great and haven't had too many moves to make. I think really the only move to make is based off your league format, based off your team, is maybe selling a little bit of depth to go get that upside piece. Now, let's check this out from Caden here. It says, just completed a startup and ended up with this. I'm definitely looking to improve my quarterback room and thinking about going quarterback at the 104, the 107. The issue with that is going to be there are only 2 quarterbacks. I also have the 302 and will likely just take running back shots. Thanks in advance for any feedback. No, thank you so much, my guy. I really do appreciate you. I will say congrats on having a good startup. If you were looking at the league analyzer here, it does look like there's a little tier of 3 teams. Then beyond that, there's a tier of about 6 mid teams. And then there are 2 or 3 bottom teams at the very end. Crazy that this team here at the bottom, like realistically, what was this team at the bottom doing in this startup? This was a startup draft, and somehow they came away with Tyreek, Debo, Diggs as their top 3 receivers. This team really went into the startup draft and operated as if it was just a 1-year ordeal. But anyway, we have a much better squad. Pulling up our team, we have May Darnold at quarterback, nothing else. So 100% agree. Quarterback is going to be a need here. We're sitting with the 103, the 107. Cam Ward looks to be a lock to be a top 2 pick at this point. Looks like Cam Ward more and more likely is going to be the number 1 pick overall. Given the fact that he has some rushing upside and he's going to have the draft capital where what we've historically seen is we have seen the draft capital really insulate these guys from a starting games perspective. I mean, if y'all remember, I'm sure everybody here remembers, I thought Trey Lance was a great dynasty asset, given the fact that if you looked historically, we had never seen a quarterback go inside the top 3 picks, start fewer than like 38 games. So I was like, okay, well, this guy's going to get a chance to be a starter. Obviously didn't happen. I guess he was the first guy to start like 3. But nonetheless, Cam Ward, I think you look at the larger sample and say, okay, well, he's pretty much guaranteed to have a strong guarantee of a starting job over the next 3 seasons. And if he has the rushing upside, he can put fantasy points on the board. So I'd be completely fine taking him with a 103, unless you have like Ted McMillan finding himself with a great quarterback, while at the same time Hampton goes to a dream landing spot. Then obviously we can revisit. The 107, looking at Shedeur Sanders, the issue that I'm seeing is, one, the draft capital is not going to be as guaranteed as it would be with Ward, and at the same time, don't particularly have the same rushing upside. So I don't know if you'd be willing to lock up that 107 into being Sanders. I would almost think that you could actually get more for the 107 through trade, get a better quarterback. So if you decide that the 103 is not worth Ward, yet we still want another quarterback here, we can go ahead and we can look at a couple of these teams. Like maybe you'd prefer Trevor Lawrence there, sending the 107 to get T-Law. There are some teams here that don't have great quarterbacks. Maybe you prefer Dak Prescott, sending the 107 to get Dak. Of course, unless you think he's going to be a Brown. That would be my plan rather than taking Sanders, or maybe you could trade a couple picks back. But I definitely agree with you. I think that going ahead and looking at a quarterback would be advantageous. Another thought that you could have here, not something you need to do, is if you wanted to, where's that team with a bunch of quarterbacks? If you wanted to move off of May and pick up 2 starters, if we could look at this team that was sitting here with 4 starting quarterbacks, if you wanted to tier down from Drake May, pick up Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, and then a couple second-round picks, I think that could be something we explore, because then at that point you have 3 starters, then you have some more shots at running back. Going over looking at RB, we have Gibbs and Montgomery. So definitely a running back room that we can contend with, right? But we don't necessarily have too much depth beyond this. So you're already mentioning that we are going to be targeting running backs with our later round picks. I know we have a couple thirds. We have the second. Another thing that I would point out, it's just difficult to say this specifically because you are in a... you're coming out of a startup draft, right? When you're coming out of a startup draft, maybe it's just going to be a little bit tougher. But if you could take one of those early thirds, if you could take that 208 and go and send it for a veteran running back like James Conner, Alvin Kamara, that team decides that they want to rebuild instead, could be something that's interesting. Now, again, the issue is everybody's out of startup draft. Anybody who wanted to rebuild wasn't taking a running back like James Conner anyway. So what we could do is with that 208, if you wanted to send it for a 2026 second and third, if you don't like the running back that's available at that point, you could then actually hold on to that guaranteed value. And during the season, when we know what running backs are producing, not only do we know what running backs are producing, but at the same time, we know if we are a true contender, we can look to send a 2026 second and a third for like Alvin Kamara if his team needs to pivot to a rebuild. So I always am a fan of, on contending rosters like the one we probably have here, of sending that late second, picking up a future second and third, not necessarily thinking, oh, great, we ended up getting a extra third round pick, but more so thinking, okay, now we have guaranteed value. We have ammo to make moves during the season on a contending team. Going over to receiver, we have Puka, Higgins, Flowers. Not a great wide receiver room in terms of depth. And when we have Johnson, Myers, I definitely think you could add another starter, right? So at that 103 again, if Ted McMillan finds himself a great landing spot, or Hampton finds himself a great landing spot, I think this team could use another quarterback. I think this team could use another running back. I think this team could use another receiver. I don't think you need to lock yourself really into anything at that one individual pick. And I'd kind of say the same thing at the 107 as well. I'm going over to tight end. We have Jonnu, who we can play this next season. We'll figure it out beyond then, but we're going to be good for now. So I know we talked about a lot of randomness here. But again, I think the main thing hinges on, I don't know if you need to reach for Shedeur Sanders to the 107. I almost think it could be better to trade that pick for a veteran quarterback if you really decide that you need that veteran QB. With your later picks, I agree with the thought process of just take as many shots at running back as you can. With the 103, I'm going to go best player available, whether that's Ward, Hampton, McMillan, or Hunter if he plays wide receiver, all depending on landing spots. And with your late second rounder, if you don't have a running back that falls to you at that pick that you're really excited about, I would actually look to trade that for a future second and third, just so we could go ahead and have more ammo to make moves during the season. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out. And again, congrats on being in that little top group of those 3 teams just out of the startup draft. Now let's move this over to our next team. So this looks like it's not going to be out of a startup draft based off the fact that it is pretty lopsided when it comes to the value of the rest of the league here. We need a third quarterback or way to get more running back / depth. Can get JJ and Russ for my 2026 first if the owner blows it up mid-season. What do you think about Burrow for May in the 103 if I can? Possibly flip the 103 and the 310 or future second for the 106 and 109. This is a lot to look at. Let me pull up the trade calculator. This is going to be able to help us not only see it, but maybe get a little bit of a better sense of what the value is looking like here. Okay. So they receive Burrow. We receive May and the 103. Oh, sorry. These are on one quarterback ranks. Let's go and make them 2 QB. Save this. Let me insert these. So they're going to receive Burrow. We're going to receive May and the 103. It's going to say that we win. I almost want to use my rankings because I personally don't agree with the other guys on the site having May so high. Using my ranks, this is saying that it is fair value. I know you were saying that you then wanted to flip the 103 and a future second for the 106 and 109. So let's just say we get the 106 and 109 here instead. Ba-bum, bum, bum, ba-bum. 106, 109, and we traded a 2026 seconds. Saying we slightly lose on that front. Again, let's look at this. It's a start 10, half PPR, full point tight end premium, Superflex League. We are sitting at the second spot with the league analyzer. So we have a strong team. We have the 108, the 110. We have 3 future firsts. That's where a lot of this value is coming from. So the main question that we need to answer is, what are we looking to accomplish with this team? Are we wanting to just continue to accumulate as much future value as we possibly can? Because at that point, it looks like that's what our trades have been accomplishing. Or do we want to try to win this season? Now, looking at quarterback to see if we can win this year, we have Burrow, Lawrence. We don't have a QB3. Maybe to get that QB3, we either take Sanders, the 108, or the 110, or possibly we trade one of those picks for a veteran quarterback. Running back, we are completely underweight, right? Where we are sitting with David Montgomery, Trey Benson, Javonte. But in terms of trying to project this out for this next season, hard to imagine that we can contend with the running back room with how it's situated right now. Going over to receiver, we have a lot of cornerstone assets, and that's almost what makes things difficult here. We have Lamb, who, I mean, can help us contend not only for this season, but for years to come. Same thing with Neighbors, same thing with Worthy, same thing with Rome, same thing with Devonta Smith. Having these 5 receivers makes it where you have so much flexibility to actually be a contending roster right now. And given the rookie picks that you have as well, I think that's the position that I want to go for. I think that you actually look to contend. So I am not the biggest Drake May guy, to be completely honest. I would have been willing to change my tune if maybe we saw the New England Patriots bring in Chris Godwin. Maybe we saw one of the many free agent wide receivers that were available decide to go to the New England Patriots. However, Higgins stayed in Cincinnati. Godwin stayed in Tampa. Kupp went to Seattle. Really, they just got Diggs. I mean, they got the scraps left at the very bottom of the barrel. While May had a horrible situation last year and yet was okay with it, it's not like Drake May's in a phenomenal situation this year. It's not like that has fundamentally changed. So, especially that you have Burrow with Higgins and Chase, I think I would rather just hold on to him, to be honest. It gives you the ability to contend this year. Looking at the 108 and the 110 and just trying to go get a sense of what we can actually expect in this range of the draft. Looking at the average rookie ranks, the 108, the 110, maybe you're looking at Matthew Golden, maybe you're looking at Caleb Johnson, maybe Burden falls to the beginning of round 2, and then you end up getting him in the late first of your rookie draft. The goal, or at least the hope here, is you get one of the top 5 running backs. I think you even mentioned this, right? What was your message? Saying you want 2 of the top 5 running backs in this year's class. If you look at the rankings on the site with how we have them situated right now, it looks like maybe it's unlikely for you to get 2 of the top 5 RBs unless they both find themselves in really bad landing spots. Like if Henderson and Caleb Johnson find themselves in horrible spots this next season, like maybe they fall to the beginning of round 3 or the end of round 2, but they're parked behind another running back. You get them. I wonder if there's an easy way for you to move up in the draft without having to give up the best assets such as Joe Burrow. Like looking at the 108, looking at the 110, what can we do here? Terms of pieces that we have that have enough value where we could move up with them, but aren't going to be able to help us much. Maybe you say Benson, Javonte have some suitors, probably not. Like, let's go look at who has these picks. The 102, 103. No. This team 101, this team 307. God, what team has the picks? This team is 106, 109. They have nothing at running back. I don't necessarily know if they view themselves as a contender at the moment. If you could send, say, like the 110, move up to the 106, I think that puts you in a much better spot to get those 2 running backs that you were discussing. Here's what I would do right now. See if they bite. They probably won't. They'll probably laugh at you, but you never know. I would offer them the 110, the 308, the 310, the 408, and see if we can move up to the 106. I think that would put you in a great spot to get those 2 running backs. The issue is going to be, of course, when we're looking at like players that we can trade away. Nobody's trading for Jermaine Burton. Nobody's trading for Gabe Davis. Maybe another possibility is now we have all the future picks too. What happens if we end up getting a receiver, right? So say what happens if Matthew Golden's the pick at 10? How does that impact this team? Say the 108, we end up getting Caleb Johnson. The 110, we end up getting Matthew Golden. Running back going into the year, we're starting David Montgomery, maybe Javonte, depending on what happens in Dallas. We have the hope that we have a rookie running back to take over halfway through the season. Wide receiver, we have 5 guys right now and a start 10. So adding Matthew Golden's not the end of the world. We could use an extra name, especially when the drop-off is Jermaine Burton. We're going to be able to contend right now with Burrow, Lawrence at quarterback. We're going to be able to contend with Andrews at tight end. The main thing is just trying to find a way to get that running back production while not necessarily giving up a ton of future value. I think if you can make those, I'm not doing the Burrow deal. I'm sorry. I think you hold on to Burrow. I think you already have so much when it comes to rookie draft capital. I think you're in such a great spot. I think if you're looking to make any move, it's trying to move up marginally from the 108 and the 110, say to go get that 106 and 109. I think if we're able to accomplish that by selling thirds and fourths, even if that includes 2026 picks, even if that means we end up having to give up 3 or 4 third-round picks, it is what it is. I'm willing to do that for us to move up and get into a range in which we can actually target those 2 running backs. Because then if you're able to, say, bring in like Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson, we go into this next season good enough at quarterback to contend, good enough at running back to contend, have the strength at wide receiver that actually does make us a contender, and good enough at tight end to contend. Plus, we have 3 future 2026 first that if a Lawrence injury happens, or maybe one of the rookie running backs doesn't pan out and we need another, you have that ammo in which we can send another pick and really go and make ourselves that contender. So keep Burrow, try to move up a few picks in the rookie draft. Stay flexible with your 2026 first. Yeah, I think you have a great team, but with a build like this, I think you're too good to be trading away an asset like Burrow unless you're just getting a no-brainer price. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way here, my friend. But let me refresh that. That's not refreshing. Okay, let's move this over to Nicholas's question here. Says, just traded away Jordan Mason for the 211. Hasn't processed yet. Plan on getting at least 2, if not 3 running backs with the first round picks. Plan on selling May or Lawrence once the season starts and guys get nervous about their quarterback rooms. Any moves we should be looking to make? Well, first thing is, congrats on having such a strong team. We are the #1 team with the league analyzer. So in that case, 99% of the time we should be looking to contend right now. This is going to be a 1 quarterback format. So 1 quarterback format, realistically speaking, nothing we're going to be able to do to sell Trevor Lawrence, right? Realistically, what can we get for him? Nada, nothing, zip. It ain't happening. You're just kind of going to be stuck as is. But quarterback, we're in a beautiful spot. We have Daniels, we have May, we have Lawrence. We're going to never need a quarterback ourselves. Maybe if Lawrence starts super hot and then all of a sudden this team down here gets an injury to Mahomes, maybe we can flip him. But the expectation is you're not really getting anything, right? It's going to be a start 9 full PPR non-tight end premium. So really, it's not a super deep league. Start 9, 1 quarterback is about equivalent to a start 10 super flex league. Quarterback, we are good enough to get by. Going over to running back, we have Connor Benson in a build in which we have this much value and we are 100% looking to contend. I think you can afford to try to move up and try to go get to Ashton Genty. Let's see what team has the 101 and let's see what they could possibly be interested in. Which team has the 101? Okay, this is the team that has the 101. Very interesting squad to have the 101 because they also have Tyreek, Metcalf, Pickens, Sutton. So they have contending assets. They're built as if they're trying to win right now, which obviously they just earned the 101 this past year. In my opinion, they probably should have sold a lot of these contending assets, but that's just me. But if you could, in a world, send them the 102 and one of these depth options like Chris Olave to get to the 101 with Ashton Genty, I think that could make a lot of sense, specifically with your league format. Another thing that we could do is just target the other elite running backs. So this team with Bijan Robinson, try to see if we can send them the 102 with a wide receiver like Chris Olave to try to go get Bijan. Same thing that we could do here with Jahmyr Gibbs. But I mean, a lot of times I'm not necessarily going out of our way and trying to pay up and pay that premium to get the elite running back, especially in Dynasty. But when you're sitting here with such a strong roster compared to the rest of the league, you're the one person who can afford to do so. Because we go over and we look at wide receiver, we have Lamb, London, Rome, Rice, Olave. We have 5 quality starters as is. And the issue that you're going to have is, while obviously we are going to be targeting the running back position in this year's draft. 102 as things stand, if we can't trade the pick and make the move up to get Bijan, Gibbs, Genty, we're going to be taking Hampton. 106, 107, we're going to be hoping Henderson or Judkins or Caleb Johnson. We're going to be hoping there are 2 running backs there for us to take, right? And if you could tell me right now, Mason, we're going to come away with Hampton, Judkins, Henderson, your team's a juggernaut. There's not a single other thing to discuss. But you never know. You could end up getting things in a way where you have to take Emeka Egbuka at the 106. You have to take Luther Burden at the 107. You don't know, and I don't necessarily know if we can just rely on the people at the top of the draft or with how the draft is going to go in general, which we're just kind of guessing at this point, to give us running backs at those picks. So I think if we can trade for the elite RB, that's advantageous, especially if we can pay up one of those depth wide receivers to do so, such as Chris Olave, because then at that point, it does give us the ability to still go best player available at the 106, the 107. I'm going over to receiver. There's absolutely nothing to discuss. We have 5 great guys. In a full PPR, 1 quarterback dynasty league where wide receiver is the most important position, we have the best wide receivers. Going over and looking at tight ends, we are sitting with Jonnu, Ferguson, so we can get by. Are we super strong? No. Can we get by? Yes. So looking at everything that we have here, you have the best team in the league by far. I think you pay up, get an elite RB, and give yourself the flexibility to take best player available at the 106, 107. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. And yeah, it's hard to say much when you have the best team in the league by far. Now, let's go over and let's look at Munoz 11 Andrew. My friend, really do appreciate you. Going to be super excited to check this out. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade questions just in case you have anything else that you want to. It said error creating voucher. I'm going to take a DM of your name right now and make sure, not a DM of your name. I'm going to take a screenshot and DM this to the devs to make sure you get your vouchers. But anyway, running back situation's rough, but I somehow managed to win the league last year. Bench is only 7 spots. Okay. So we are the number 1 team in the league at this point. So we have a lot of flexibility. Now, I will say this should play a lot more as if it's a redraft league than it is a dynasty league. Specifically because in a league in which you only have 7 bench spots. And before I played dynasty back in like 2013, 2014 time period, what I was doing is I was playing in keeper leagues, played in a lot of like keep 10 player keeper leagues where you kind of learn the hard way that a lot of these rookies, guys like Adonai Mitchell last year, they're players that just end up getting cut by week 3. They're players that just end up getting cut by week 4. So, of course, the players at the very top, like Jaden Daniels, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, T. Higgins, we can comfortably say like, oh, okay, yeah, we know we're going to be able to contend with these guys. We know we're going to be able to build around them for a long time into the future. And we can almost take into consideration their long-term outlook and treat it as if it's dynasty. Now, again, the issue is going to be on the flip side of that. When we're looking at second rounders, when we're looking at third rounders, you really just have to take it year by year. You're not able to look even into the next season because those are going to be players that have to just get cut immediately. And with that being said, because there will be decent options on the waiver wire, what we are wanting to do is we're wanting to go ahead and we are wanting to make as many 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals as we possibly can. That way we can take advantage of when somebody in your league has to cut Trey Benson. And we can go ahead and we can go and scoop him up, right? So that's the objective here. This is going to be a start 8-1 quarterback league. So should be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, 2 flex spots, or 3 wide receivers, 1 flex. But nonetheless, we don't have to build around depth with the starting lineup really either. And yeah, you already mentioned, but running back is going to be the position that needs the most work. Quarterback, we are rolling with Daniels and Bo Nix. Super good spot, right? I mean, we can very easily say, yeah, we can roster 2 quarterbacks every year for the rest of the time. These 2 guys should have plenty of value. They're both very, very old rookie quarterbacks last season, but it's not like we're ever concerned about the age of a quarterback going into their second year. Looking at the running back position, we have Charbonnet, Spears, Rachaad White, Jonathan Brooks. So running back, we are cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey. Incredible. You won this league, right? Yeah, you won the league. I guess maybe Charbonnet came on very strong at the end. Incredible that you were able to win this league with this running back room. Going ahead and looking at the receivers, we have Jefferson, Neighbors, Higgins. We also had Higgins at the end, absolutely crushing it. Jaden Reed. So we have a great wide receiver room, right? I would say those guys at the very bottom, like Cedric Tillman, Adonai Mitchell, are great examples of players that in a regular Dynasty league, they hold some value. But here they're almost worthless just because there are going to be options on the waiver wire that are very equivalent to them. So we are always willing to go ahead and throw in a Cedric Tillman, throw in an Adonai Mitchell to get any deal done whatsoever. On tight end, super comfortable spot with Sam Laporta, right? Going into year 3, has had a great first 2 seasons. We know we can start him forever in the future, and we're only rostering 1 other tight end. So I think it's a great team. I think it's a very simple situation in which we just need to find a way to get a better running back, right? Looking at the picks that we have with the 112, 201, 312, I specifically here where you only have 7 bench spots, right? Like I already said, a lot of these guys that you would have taken in a 1 quarterback league last year, Trey Benson would have gone at the beginning of the 2nd round. Somebody that has to get cut by the time he gets week 6 in this format. Or if I'm not saying he has to get cut, but you're definitely sitting there going, oh, can I cut him? I need to make a spot on my roster for the waiver wire. So you definitely have to, in my mind, have a different perspective with these late to early seconds, or really any like 112 pick and beyond, especially in a 1 quarterback league where we have Daniels, we have Bo Nix, we have no business taking Cam Moore, we have no business taking Shedeur Sanders, right? So that even takes 2 players away from the board. Going over and looking at the rookies that we could have here, let's look at 1 quarterback. Let's look at expert average when it comes to 1 quarterback rankings. We're not really considering Cam Ward. We're not really considering the tight ends either. We have Laporta and we have Goddard. So we're kind of looking at like this grouping of rookies in your format with your team. I don't know if taking Scadaboo does much for you. I would almost rather try to target one of the rebuilding rosters and see if we can send them a couple rookie picks to go get some running backs. Like this team that's sitting here with Aaron Jones, for us, where we're a contending roster, and this team, on the other hand, roams their wide receiver 1, Flowers, Judy make up the rest of their wide receiver core. I'd be interested. Can we send them to the 201 for Aaron Jones? See if we can find any other rebuilding rosters. This team's definitely going to be able to contend. This team can contend. This team can contend. Depend on the Rice injury. Maybe this team doesn't. But again, they probably view themselves as contender coming into the year. Side note, in terms of how we structure our bench in this league, I like the idea of structuring our team closer to this roster than what we have now. Obviously, our team's a lot better than this team. Don't get me wrong. We have way more value. Again, we're the number 1 team in the league analyzer. We just won the league. But instead of having these guys like Cedric Tillman, Adonai Mitchell at the bottom end of our team, I would almost rather treat it like a redraft league, where instead we're rostering these guys like Ray Davis, Blake Corum, Braylon Allen. We're like, okay, if an injury happens in front of them, we know that we can actually get them in our starting lineup. We know that they're going to make a difference, even if this is a shallower format. So side note, I'd rather do that. There aren't too many like really bad teams in your league that we can say, oh yeah, target this team. This team's a clear rebuilder. So maybe it's just that team at the very bottom here that has Aaron Jones, seeing if we can send them the 201 and pick up Jones. Now, another thing that we could look to do is if we could possibly package together our rookie picks to move up in the rookie draft. Like if we could possibly package together pick 12 as well as pick 13 and put ourselves in a position where instead we are looking at Judkins, we are looking at Henderson, we're looking at this range of players. Like if we can go picks 12 and 13 to try to get up to pick 5, I think that'd be a no-brainer move, especially when we have that shallower bench. But again, everything comes back to you have a super strong team. We just won this league, and it's a super shallow format that we should almost treat the bottom end of the bench more like redraft and dynasty, which that's going to include making as many 2-for-1, as many 3-for-1 deals as we possibly can to just improve that starting lineup. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. I tried hooking up with vouchers. Maybe they're already in your accounts. I will make sure that I send your username regardless to the developers on the site, though, so we can get you some free trade vouchers. That way you can ask some free trade questions for me to look at later on. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out, my friend. Now, let me just check the chat quickly, see if there's anything that was really important for me to look at. I don't see much, but I really appreciate y'all. Again, I have big things coming on the site that I'm super excited for y'all to actually get the official word on. And yeah, I mean, we're closing in on the NFL draft, have some big plans for the draft, has some big plans for not only the draft, but also for the redraft channel with Best Ball Mania, et cetera. Really appreciate you and really hope we get to see you out with a live stream. Maybe we'll live stream. I think I got to pick it up. I'm getting the edge. Not tomorrow, but maybe the next day. We'll close in. Is that Friday? No, tomorrow's Friday. I think the girlfriend works on Saturday. So Saturday live stream.